I saw a funny meme. I want to highlight this story because I think it really is relevant. From Timcast.com, first, I'll give you this. Justin Trudeau invokes emergency powers in effort to stop protests. Trudeau's government has declared the ability to freeze bank accounts and suspend the rig insurance of truckers involved in the Freedom Convoy. Wow. Now, that's the story, which is the precursor to the actual story here. I was browsing Reddit, as I often do. Most of you know I'm flipping through Reddit all the time. When I come across Political Compass memes, I'm a fan. They've got 533,000 members. And I see this. It says, Canada, what have you done? And it shows Vaush's tweet. For those that are familiar, Vaush is a socialist YouTuber. And then it says Tim Pool retweeted. And I'm like, I don't understand. What is this? And I look down and they have a stone toss comic. In the first panel, it shows me, which they call me libertarian right, and Vaush, a leftist. And he reaches out his hand, we shake hands, and then we look over at Trudeau, who looks like some kind of hunchback goblin or whatever. But the comments are then filled with people saying Tim Pool is lib center, not lib right. But I think it's funny. Vaush tweeted, Trudeau explaining to his people how revocation of citizenship is the only way to protect Canada from the striking Dairy Queen workers. And it's a really good tweet.
That's hilarious.
And then it shows the Ingsoc 1984, Big Brother, all that stuff. And I thought it was a fantastic tweet from Vaush. And so I retweeted it. And I was like, yeah, right on. And then he makes a bunch of other points following up on that thread where he's like, how are you all not getting it? That if they can freeze your bank without a court order, if you ever stage a general strike or try and stand up against these big corporations or the power of government, they will freeze you out. I find that really funny. As much as I agree with Vaush on that point, I'm like, dude, the vaccine mandates are worse than that. Yeah. The vaccine mandates are like, we can take away your money. And you're like, fine, I'll go, I'll figure out another way to make money. But the vaccine mandates are, you can't enter any of these buildings unless you inject this into your body. You have no bodily autonomy. Right. Yo, if someone came to me and said, you have two choices. We can take away your bodily autonomy and inject things into you against your will, or you can't use a bank. I'd be like, yo, I'll figure out something else. I got Bitcoin, I got crypto. I'll barter. I'll whittle a sailboat on a piece of wood and trade it to someone in exchange for a cheeseburger. Yeah. But if it's a vax mandate, you can't even go inside the building and try and trade your little wooden sailboat. So I don't understand how all of a sudden Vaush is like, this is the line for me. You can't take my money. It's like, but you're okay with them injecting people against their will? Well, look, at least on the one thing we can agree. So I will say the meme is great, showing that whatever different factions we have here, everybody is unhappy with Trudeau and thinks it's really, really bad. I will add, though, the responses to Vaush's tweet, you got a lot of people on the left who are like, you're wrong on this. It's good what he's doing.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, just pull up any one of Justin Trudeau's most recent, cycle of deranged tweets. Check out those comments from Canadians that are in support of him. Like full on, complete support of whatever their great prime minister wants to do.
I'm looking for the Abraham Lincoln, Justin Trudeau metaphors where they're like, sometimes you have to suspend habeas corpus.
Right. Yeah. That connection's there.
Yo, man, if this is the direction we're going into,
they're the ones who radicalize. They want to accuse their political opponents of being the ones that radicalize people, but that's exactly what they do because we know they accuse of what they're doing. But I know a lot of people listen, and it's like, why does this political side always get to do that? Like, they get to accuse their political opponents of doing exactly what they do, but at the same time, like, that's their art. Like, they use all these buzzwords, they slander, they say you're this, they say you're that, and what that does is it radicalizes people to do stuff and take actions. Like when this all first started, you guys remember the viral photo that went out of the guy with a face mask on, literally tried to run someone over in the trucker convoy in a Jeep? Turned out to be like an Antifa affiliate or something like that. Like, that's what I'm saying is like this is dangerous. Like when we all talk about like rhetoric and talk about when people are talking about certain things, like there's freedom of speech. We understand that. But they're the ones that use these buzzwords to get people radicalized where it actually turns into real world violence, and they don't say a word about it. They just let it go by because they're justified. They're justified in their own minds because if you're a terrorist, then you have every right to protect yourself because they're going to hurt you and your family somewhere down the line because they're the scary truckers. They're the ones that radicalize people.
That's what I didn't get is you're supposed to protect other people's rights until they're proven guilty. So why all of a sudden, just because the word terrorist gets involved, do we not protect their rights anymore? I don't like that. That's a new thing as of like 2001.
Yeah, a lot of people pointed out how scary it was. I was listening to Dave Smith on Joe Rogan. Did you guys listen to that one?
Of course.
Dave's great.
Yeah.
He was just he was talking about Brian Stelter, and he was saying that misinformation is dangerous, and putting out a story claiming that certain tragic events didn't happen is dangerous. And then Dave Smith is like, Barack Obama signing the indefinite detention provision and the media not covering it is dangerous.
Yes.
And it's like,
Love him, man. He is
that's true.
He nails it.
On
laser,
point. Yeah.
laser focused.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this was back, I think, in like 2012. Obama signed into law the National Defense Authorization Act, which included a provision that said the U.S. government can detain you anywhere on the planet without charge or trial. And it should have been the biggest news. The anti-establishment, anti-authoritarian types were all screaming about it, the activists. I made a video about it way back in the day, and Brian Stelter's angry that people are posting nonsense on social media. So that's what you get when from CNN. But look, nobody watches CNN. Their ratings are in the gutter, and this is exactly why. And that's the point Dave was making. He was like, have you ever self-reflected and asked yourself why it is people believe these YouTube videos or believe these conspiracy videos? Why is it they don't trust you anymore? It's because you don't tell the truth. It's because you're not talking about things people care about.
Right.
So you're not interesting. But more importantly, it's because you lie. They lie enough.
And you spend... CNN just spends all of their time telling you like why you shouldn't listen to somebody rather than just like telling the truth in and of itself, or even like presenting the truth as like a counter argument to whoever they're trying to debunk. They just like sit there and they tell you who's dumb, who's stupid, you shouldn't listen to, they're right wing, and they're just like not a credible source. It's like, if that's become your news organization, you're no longer a news organization. You just have a very, very strong opinion, which is fine, but don't call yourself a reliable source.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, dude. It's like literally ridiculous at this point. Because like at one point, I want people to ask themselves, like, are you offended by this? Like, do I need CNN to lecture me about what's true and what's not? Like, am I too stupid to think for myself? Like, why don't people ask themselves these questions, especially with the whole Joe Rogan thing? It's ridiculous, dude. Like, why is Brian Stelter triggered that Joe Rogan used the N-word? It's like, dude, who cares?
Someone told him to be triggered about
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but hold on.
Who cares at this point if Joe Rogan used the N-word?
They
Because
care.
like who gets exclusive rights to a certain word? Listen, if you are a certain color, if you are a race, and you literally declare that I have exclusive rights to a certain word because of my racial superiority, you're a racist. I don't care what color you are. If that's your thinking, that's what you are. And I know a bunch of black people are going to be triggered, but I don't care at this point. All the white liberals are going to be triggered, but I don't care.
I got to correct you. It's going to be the white liberals.
The white liberals. It's always the white liberals that are up in my comment sections. Oh, you don't know this. I'm like, dude, nobody cares. It's funny. Joe Rogan's funny.
Yeah.
Who cares?
It's the people.
How come you guys didn't care before?
I'm pretty sure.
How long have those
it was 'cause
clips
he
been
had
out?
Robert Malone on the show.
How long have those clips of Joe Rogan been in existence?
Years.
That was the interesting thing. I think it was Brian Stelter that let that slip through. He was just like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was just like, the reason that this video of the N-word is resurfacing is because of his vaccine misinformation. He literally just kind of like gave the game away.
Yeah.
The whole con, and I mean, he's right. He actually like said something that was truthful. The vaccine stuff that they're trying to push isn't working, and they isolated Joe Rogan. They were just like, let's attack other things that he said.
There was a
He admitted
period. There was a period for several years where I felt like, the mainstream corporate press was doing such a miserable job. They had to be corrected and called out. Now at this point, when I'm seeing so few people actually watch them, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't even bother talking about them because now it's just punching down. You know, it's like, look, it's
true.
Let's be real. They're not trustworthy.
Yeah.
People don't trust them. People don't watch them. I mean, YouTube forces CNN down people's throats, and Rachel Maddow still plays well for the boomer crowd. But the boomer crowd's aging out of
Relevance
of our society.
Yeah.
And just to be light about it, but they're no longer in the workforce. They're moving out of the workforce. They're moving out of the voting pool. For some reason, they're still our elected representatives, but the boomers are kind of aging out. Gen Xers will be aging out 15, 20 years, completely out. Millennials will be here for some time. Gen Z's aging in. And at this point, I'm just like, if we're not watching this stuff and they've become irrelevant, and the only people they're relevant to are the people who aren't as active as the rest of us, I think at a certain point, you cross that hill. You know what I mean? You're climbing uphill, challenging the mainstream press. And then one day you realize they're just not relevant to this world anymore.
Yeah, that is kind of a soft rule that I have with the newsroom when I speak to our journalists is, because a lot of times we'll pitch stories about, oh, well, CNN did this deranged thing today, or MSNBC had this ridiculous comment today. And it's just like, generally speaking, I don't think we should be covering corporate press unless it's something especially egregious and especially insane.
Sure.
Because I mean, it would be endless. And I've had that conversation with our writers. It's just like, it would just be an endless cycle of like, Psycho says this, and we have to cover Psycho says this. And I mean, we can't really do that. Except for one writer who is especially triggered by anything that Leanna Wynn says. And I am too. So it's just like, all right, let's see what Leanna Wynn said.
She's off a rocker. I mean, Dave Smith was also talking about this with Rogan. Rogan brought it up, that she's saying like unvaxxed people shouldn't be allowed to leave their homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hear that and I'm listening to it and it's funny. But at a certain point, I'm like, does it matter anymore?
Yeah, I agree with you.
If we get to the point where the truckers are just going to do their thing and Trudeau can't stop it, we get to the point where we all wake up one day and say, Joe Biden is not relevant to my life. Trudeau, for those in Canada, not relevant to my life. What matters is what we have faith in, what we have confidence in. And this system ain't working. You know what I mean? So if people just woke up one day and said, I'm not going to comply or participate in your garbage, I'm going to do my own thing, it would change instantly. And you look at what's happening now. This is funny. It was, I remember it was a month or two ago when Luke was here and I said, I think the mandates are going to get worse. I think they're going to lock down hard. And Luke said he didn't think so. I think I had a good reason to think that. Frederick County, for instance, just reintroduced mask mandates. They were trying to bring them back, but the pushback was too great, and I didn't count on that. Maybe I was a little too pessimistic. Luke had that one right. You look at what's happening in Canada now. All of a sudden, DC, who just started putting in place his mandates, goes, "Oh, we're getting rid of all of them. All the mandates are gone now." Frederick County is now pulling their mandate back after what, a month? Because they realized it wasn't working anymore.
No one cares.
And if no one cares, guess what happens? You've got to maintain this facade that you have power and that if you do something, people will obey it. But if they enact this mask mandate and no one obeys it, and half the people in Frederick County weren't doing it, this is in Maryland, by the way.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden people start to realize, hey, wait a minute. The government can't do anything about anything. I mean, take a look at speeding, for instance. Everybody speeds. Literally everyone. To the point where you're never going to get, for the most part, you can get singled out. But everybody speeds. You don't get pulled over. Why? Because there's not enough cops to pull everybody over when they're speeding about 5 miles over the limit.
And the wonderful thing is if everyone's speeding together, it's safer to speed. You actually get a ticket for going the speed limit at that point. If it's a 60-mile-an-hour zone and everyone's going 80, you better be going 80. Because that's how you drive safe. And the cop will pull you over if you're not going the speed of traffic.
But what you're saying is it's happening at scale in Ottawa. I mean, there was an unnamed source. I forget which Canadian outlet that it was reported in, but an unnamed source in the police department says that they're paralyzed.
Yeah.
They said they're totally paralyzed by what's happening in the streets of Ottawa with this protest. And that's right. There's nothing that they can literally do about it. There's too many people speeding.
So if we get to the point where people keep leaving cities, they start moving out to the middle of nowhere, if more and more people start learning how to be responsible for themselves, then eventually we could wake up one day and there's just some pathetic shell of a federal government we don't pay attention to.
Oh, that's a really warm, soothing
Sounds
thought, isn't
wonderful.
it?
I know,
That's
sounds
really
great.
exciting.
Yeah.
Libertarian spectrum rejoice.
Yes.
We're all like, wow.
Definitely the spectrum.
I just think I think it's like the general public. Like, how many photos of Gavin Newsom do you need to see with him without a mask on at a gathering
Super
with
Bowl.
thousands of people, or with Magic Johnson and Mayor Eric Garcetti, and like how many of these do you need to see that, like, hey, this isn't actually the reality they're claiming it really
How
is.
many judges do you have to see that wear white wigs before you realize what a facade this is right now?
Our judges wearing white wigs.
People wear like big costumes and stuff when they're adjudicating, and like all over the world they do this weird parliamentary crap to make them stand out.
I think Ian just
So
rolled
weird.
two 20s. That wasn't just a 20, and that was
Double crit.
220s
double.
at
That
once?
was double.
Confirm the crit. Yeah.
Confirmed correct. I got to tell you, man. The suit wearing, I just think people are desperately trying to put on fronts
Yes.
to justify what they're doing, and that's so much of what our civilization and society is. Everybody wear your suit, and I don't wear suits. I don't have a suit. I'm not going to wear a suit, and I just don't see the point. Why? Got to wear your tie. Why? It covers your buttons. So what? Why wear a
Buttons?
suit? Look, I get it if there's like a kind of, you're trying to look nice, but I don't think we're in that period anymore where people need to put on pretense. But you look at judges and their robes and everything's, proper, and doctors in their lab coats. And I'm just like, dude, I don't care for any of that. It doesn't prove anything to me. Any random dude can put on a suit and claim to be someone important. It doesn't fly. I guess for a random person, it might. For me, it doesn't do anything. You come to me wearing a suit, means nothing to me at all.
Badges are like that too. I don't like that you put a little marker on your shirt and all of a sudden you're supposed to have some control over me. Like, you better be a better person than me if you want some control over me.
Well, that's a different question. I mean, that we're talking about policing.
I'm not saying the institution's a problem, but I'm saying that the fact that they get to just put a badge on and all of a sudden that gives them power. It's like putting on a suit and you think that they're more valuable now because they're wearing a suit. I don't care what you're wearing.
Well, no, I think it's their job that grants them certain, authority.
It's really the gun that gives them the authority.
Of course.
No. It's the gun control combined with the monopoly on violence from the state.
Yeah, so the state is a gun.
Gun plus
So
backup.
it's the fact that they have many, many guns, select fire guns, people with armor and shields, and you're not allowed to have any of those things, and they'll tell you what to do, and you better do it or else. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.